that I joined in the police department, I think I'm better suited to continue to do some good things for Baltimore.
Wow.
That's impressive.
I would say I didn't even know that. That's major. And even with Restoring the Village and when you hear people start an organization or anything, there's always something that's pushed for that. So thank you, Thank you just for wanting to make Baltimore better. I just love your literature that we can do more. I do believe that as well. So thank you for that. The first question that we have on here, yesterday we had some little issues here. And we wanted to know, what does the position of sheriff entail? And everybody had their own question. And so I think it's important to know, what that position even entails, the things that they can and cannot do. If you can just enlighten people about the position altogether.
Well, officially, the sheriff office is the law enforcement arm of the courts, right? However, the sheriff deputies have the same authority and the same legal rights as any other police officer. And what makes the sheriff office more powerful than the police department, it is the only branch of law enforcement that can enforce criminal, civil, and traffic laws. So that civil portion of it is what makes the sheriff more important. But however, with that being said, Baltimore has some challenges. Other cities and other counties have sheriffs. They can afford to set back and exclusively be the law enforcement office of the court. We can't. There's a lot to do in Baltimore. We have crime in Baltimore. The sheriff need to get outside the courthouse walls and get into the streets and interact with our community, understand what the problems are. It's a resource that is huge for Baltimore that's not being utilized right now. And that's mainly because the sheriff is not willing enough to get out here and do that, and I am.
Absolutely. I love that. Now, I want to just talk about, we had one question. I think it's important when you talked about getting outside of the courthouse and being engaged. The first question I want to talk about, even to reflect on being engaged in the community, would be our youth. And I think that is very important to be engaged in our community and with our youth. So, your campaign, emphasizes a focus on working with youth. I've been looking at your website. Please make sure that you look at the website. It's very detailed. I appreciate that. So transparent. So your campaign emphasizes a focus on working with youth and on helping to reintegrate convicts. I was saying convicts, so let's just say who have served their terms. How would this help make Baltimore a safer place to live?
Well, you're giving people opportunities, and you let people know that they are important. A couple of things that come to mind when I talk about working with the youth, starting a cadet program and a junior cadet program. So the cadet program is hiring young black men and women, and it could be of other races, but native Baltimorean. Hire them to introduce them to the professional law enforcement ranks so that we can put them back into the streets to police Baltimore.
Right.
Nobody understands Baltimore better than we do.
Yeah.
So that part is good. There are some other things I want to be able to do with youth, starting with a junior cadet program to interact with kids in middle school. I've talked to school police to make sure we have a program centered around them. One of the things I want to be able to do also, you're talking about reintegrating men back into society. Too often, I talk about my child support warrant program. Too often we have young men or men, period, returning from prison. And if they have an open child support warrant, that is unfair to them. How do they get those things going? Somebody's got to give them an opportunity to get some of these things done. Not only do they have the warrant on them, their license been suspended. Some of them have CDL license. You can't get a job if you don't have this. And sometimes some of the jobs we have, and that's plentiful, is those jobs driving. So I want to give youth the opportunity. We connected with the unions. The union have internship programs. We have mentorship programs, and also I've talked to some churches to get some of our young men and women reconnected or introduce them to a spiritual, sense of life. So connecting with those churches. So making people feel like they're important. And one big thing is too, when I was growing up, we saw police officers in the boys club, but those things don't exist anymore.
know. It's a lot
And
of
what
things,
I
though.
will say that we got to meet youth where they are right now. If it's on the corner, go to the corner. If it's on the courts, go to the court. We have to meet them where they are and work with them from the standpoint where they are right now and show them a better way.
Yeah, meet them where they are. That's like probably the key word right there.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
that's part of the problem with a lot of things.
But you know, the other thing too, so there's other things I want to be able to do with conflict resolution, making the courthouse a safe house, dealing with teen violence, teen domestic violence, which is on the rise. So just show them how they are supposed to handle conflict. That's huge for our society, and we got to start somewhere.
Okay, you've touched on partially question number 3, which was the emphasis of the youth and how do you want to reestablish and have a basis for the youth to increase, their ability to thrive. Another half of the question was about fiscal adjustments for the budget.
Okay.
And which direction would you recommend, or what improvements would you make to alter that in a more positive way for 2019?
All right, so I don't think there's ever enough money that's allocated towards programs for youth. And with that being said, a lot of what we can do for our youth don't take money. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes connecting with them and showing them the right way. One of the other things I want to be able to do, and this is what the sheriff office do not do, each year they leave a lot of money on the table because they don't know the process on securing grant money, local, state, and federal grant money. There's public safety grant money that's out there. I would make sure that I hire an expert that's real good at going after those dollars, writing those grants, securing those grants, and that's going to take care of some of the budget issues that I have when I talk about some of these programs. So that's a big component of it, is learning how to get that grant money and not leaving it on the table. But you got to know how to do it.
Yes.
Mr. Brandford, when I talk to you, you have such a great sense of passion when it comes to speaking about your community and what motivates you and moves you. My question is, how did you get that sense of passion? Where is it derived from?
Well, I got to say my mother and father. Then I got to give the honor and glory to God. I've always been a spiritual person. Of course, I fell in and out of church, but I've always had this sense about me.
Foundation.
Yeah, and I try to give that to my children. And what I think families go through, it's not unlike what I've been through. So just because I'm a police officer, don't mean that all of a sudden I'm this greatest person in the world. I went through the same things. What people suffer in their families, I suffer in my family. My brother was killed. I raised my children, 5 of them, in Baltimore City, all went to Baltimore City public schools. Some had great success, some didn't. However, all 5 are still alive, and they still contributing to society in a good way. So my passion comes from that. And being in the police department all these years, I've seen some tragedies, and I can't leave without continuing to fight every day to make sure that I can do from what I can do to make somebody's life better. And I think the sheriff department is a great platform for me to do that. It's a huge resource, and I want to be able to utilize it to help people and get involved in the community.
Absolutely.
I know with with the loss of my husband, first of all, thank you for even coming out to the event. Just to know, like, me losing my husband, that's my passion. And I appreciate hearing that, because you know that you're not doing it for no other reason, but to actually genuinely make a difference. So, anytime I hear that from anyone, I know that we are in good hands, in a sense. That definitely makes me feel good to know that someone from the community is able to put back into the community.
Absolutely.
One of the questions, another question that we do have from one of our viewers, was missing children. And so we got a couple things, big topics that we want to make sure we hit. But missing children processes. If you can share any details or any insight or plans that you may have about missing children.
Okay. Well, we always hear about missing children. A large percentage of children that's missing, a lot of them are runaways. However, I think the biggest issue with missing children are those children who get caught up in the sex trafficking entity. Baltimore, Washington, Philadelphia, that's a big region for sex trafficking. I want to make sure that there's a program. Number one, all the deputies will have to be trained on what to look for some of these things, not only for sex trafficking, but for domestic violence, domestic abuse, child abuse. We spend a lot of time doing evictions on a daily basis. Getting into some of these houses is key.
Yes.
So getting into the houses and recognize what you see when you get in there is going to be key to this. Too often, I think that officers who aren't properly trained miss a sign. Therefore, we leave a child out there still missing and still caught up in that situation. Most of the children that we have encountered aren't always from Baltimore. They come from other parts of the country. And, not only do we have to take care of our children in Baltimore, we got to take care of children, period. So I would just make sure that policies are set forward, that the training is set forward, and that we put enough emphasis on locating and protecting these children.
Yeah, training is a big factor because if they don't know what to do, I think when we were talking before, we were talking about like language barriers, some things that, can kind of hurt a case when you don't have anyone there for to assist in that area. So definitely training and to actually know what it all entails, the whole, the runaways or maybe even being that to integrate into that area of helping other organizations and agencies, your police department. I think it's very good to have partnerships with different agencies. So there was, and I don't know if this is true or not, maybe you can help, but I went to a community association meeting. I heard the commissioner talking about partnership, right? Which I think is important. But he spoke about partnership with Baltimore City Police and Baltimore, the school police. But he did not mention about sheriff. So is there, maybe I misinterpreted, but if there is not, is there something you think that is important to have a partnership with?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important. And I can't speak for the commissioner, but if we speak on what we know from history, the history have always been we had a partnership with school police. We have never had that collaboration with the sheriff office. That's one of the things I will be looking to change. You can't help unless you know what's going on. If you're stuck behind the courthouse walls and that's all you know, that's huge. You got to get out. You got to be visible. You got to attend those meetings. Each morning, the mayor has a meeting with her violent reduction initiative, and every city agency is required to be at that particular meeting. One, you need to know what's going on in the city. The one entity that's missing from that is the Baltimore City Sheriff's Office.
Wow.
They need to be there. They need to know what the crime is, where the crime is occurring at, what people has been affected, and where they can fit in and try to help get some of this stuff done. So I know that's going to be a challenge, but the willingness is there to be able to sit down with state and local official to hash out what the role of the sheriff would be. There is a role, and it's a necessary role, and it's a role I am willing to embrace and join my fellow law enforcement officers and get that job done to make our city safe.
I did not know they were missing from...
Absolutely missing.
And that is not good. So yeah, I'm making my notes. Again, make sure that we're educated, we're engaged with what's going on. Yeah, I did not know that, and I think that's a very important entity there. One of the other big questions that came about when we were asking was about child support. So will there be a reform on the child custody or child support system?
Well, absolutely.
Your take on it?
In my platform, I talked about child support warrant. I talked about this earlier today. We have a lot of men who have open child support warrants. Sometimes getting the opportunity to get started on taking care of some of that is challenging. Here's what I propose. Now, the sheriff office do this initiative once a year. Christmas come once a year. We can't wait once a year to give people an opportunity to give them a gift. We got to be able to do this on a daily basis. So I'm going to connect with child support enforcement, other state and local agencies to offer wraparound services with advocates, and that's going to be part also of the grant money that I talked about. If you have a child support warrant on you, come into the courthouse, connect with these services. If you make an agreement that you're going to pay your child support, we'll put that warrant in deferment so that you can get yourself together. Hopefully, we'll be able to get your license back so you can start driving, look for some of those jobs. If you don't have a job, come in anyway. Wraparound services can still help you. I connected with advocates such as Build, Turnaround Tuesday, Goodwill has a job entry program. These are experts in the field of job placement and job training. If you make an agreement to take the training, after completion of the training, take the job, we'll put that warrant in deferment to give you opportunity to get beyond that. And I'll tell you another thing that does. It's a public safety factor to this. Small warrants, child support and traffic warrants. If I was a police officer and I stopped you on the street and you knew you had an open child support warrant, there's a certain way you're going to act because you don't want to get arrested on that.
Yes.
The officer's going to recognize that. And something's going to happen, and more often than not, somebody's going to get hurt, and more often than not, it's going to be the person that had the warrant on him. When the investigation completed, you will see that, hey, this guy had a small traffic warrant or a small child support warrant. Now, I'm not saying those things are not insignificant. They are. Moms need to get those services
Absolutely.
back. However, it's not worth someone losing their life or someone getting seriously hurt. So if we can shelve some of those warrants and give people another avenue or an opportunity to take care of some of that, I think it's a huge win for our city.
And,
That keyword is opportunity.
Absolutely.
and what it's also doing is relinquishing some of the manpower to focus on some of the more central issues in Baltimore so that the sheriff department can come together and ally with the other resources to be more pivotal and more vital and more useful in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And it takes a village to do this.
It's a village. Every time I hear village, woo, that's my keyword. I'm sorry.
It takes a village.
It definitely do. It takes, and you know, the mayor says collaboration, but that village is the same thing. It takes everyone. So again, I've taken my note. I have one last question. I do know your time is valuable, and we want to make sure you continue to get out there and continue to speak to the community. Let me just say, I gotta put this disclaimer out. If anybody want to come on the show, please let us know so we can bring you on the show and use this platform to get out to the community. So it's open to everyone. One thing I just want to say, let me just see. I think this will be the last one we can use.
Yeah,
What
Alexa.
methods will you use? I think you kind of hit it, but it's good to say to end it. What methods will you use to ensure that the feedback and suggestions of Baltimore City residents are heard?
Oh, transparency.
Yes.
First of all, I'm going to make sure I have an office that's staffed with internal affairs. And right now, when I look at the sheriff's office website, it's not interactive. I want to make sure that I have an interactive platform to make sure that the community needs and complaints are heard, that those things get investigated. I want to make sure that we advertise in the progress that we're making in the sheriff's office and making sure that citizens know that their taxpayer dollars are being spent on something viable. So to be able to connect with the community out in community meetings, getting myself and my command staff outside of the courthouse, protecting the courthouse and the Juvenile Justice Center, those things are important. We have to do that. And there's some things that I have in my platform to make sure that we enhance that. But getting out and talking to the community, making sure the community know that we're there for them, that we're going to be involved in their everyday lives, and making this city safe is important. And have a platform that's transparent and interactive is important.
Let me just say, and this is not this, I get in trouble all the time. This is not to throw shade to anyone. But I went on your website, like I went on our next guest website. I always do my homework. I do my research. And so I did go into the Baltimore City Sheriff's Office website, and it was not interactive. It was not very informative for a person who has been in office for so long. In fact, the sheriff's initiative that was on there the last things that were dated on there were back in 2013.
Wow.
2013.
And so, and again, you know, no matter what, like, we have to make sure that we are transparent, that we are allowing a platform or allowing information to be on our website to be transparent with the community. And so that kind of, you know, made me feel some kind of way, but we have to make sure that, you know, 2013, that's not acceptable when it's 2018. And so I do appreciate, like I said, just going to your website and like quickly finding the bullet points, the information that was there. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I know it's valuable. I know you have, a next event to attend, but how can voters, how can they get more information about yourself? You can give your information, phone number, and all
Right. 2
that.
points I want to hit before I leave.
Okay.
So we talked about children earlier. We have a lot of kids in Baltimore City that has
See,
trauma.
he doesn't want to leave me.
Right. So
It's okay. I don't want you to leave. Like, okay.
We have a lot of kids that's seen a lot of bad things in Baltimore, and we have kids that's traumatized, right? So we got to make sure that we take care of that part also.
Yes.
And as it relates to the sheriff's office, although I want to make sure that we take care of our citizens, we got to take care of our employees also. One of the things that kind of upsetting to me is that the sheriff deputies do not have the right for collective bargaining. They are blue-collar workers. Most of them live in the city. They have families to take care of. As sheriff, you should be willing to sit down at the table to make sure that they have the things they need to take care of for their families. If it was not for unions for my family, I wouldn't be sitting here today. So with that being said,
Absolutely.
please go to my website, stanleybrandford.com. You'll see my platform. I'm on Facebook, Stanley Brandford 410. So I'm running for sheriff, and June 26th, well, starting June 14th is early voting. June 26th, please vote Stanley Brandford for Baltimore City Sheriff. And I will guarantee you, I will make the sheriff office something that citizens can be proud of.
Awesome. Now, I do want to just make sure if anybody had any questions, I'm going to always put that out as well. You can call in at 404-436-1277. I am reading the feedback, and it's good. And like I said, I had the questions that already went out. Again, if anyone had any questions, it's 404-436-1277. Thank you so much, and in case we don't get any calls, but thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. We're going to make sure that we keep pushing that out about, your candidacy, and we wish you the best.
Well, thank you both, and thank you for what you do. This is great public service, and thank you for the job that you do.
All right, thank you. So we have no callers. We're going to take a commercial break, and we'll be back with our next guest. It will be Marlo Hargrove of FACE, and that stands for Freedom Advocates Celebrating Ex-Offenders. I've been practicing that all day. But it kind of could tie in. We want